Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into the life and legacy of a true giant of Indian cinema, Dev Anand.
Absolutely, a fascinating figure.
They've got this collection of biographical notes, mainly from a document called devanand.pdf.
Right.
And our mission, really, is to sort of unpack the key insights about his whole journey, from the very beginning right through to his lasting impact.
It's going to be quite the exploration.
It really is. And what's amazing about these sources is, well, how they let us trace this career that spanned, over 6 decades.
Incredible, isn't it? And it's more than just, a film star's biography. It gives us this unique look into a cultural phenomenon. We get these surprising details about his creative process, his influence, just the mark he left.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. The genesis of the star.
Yeah.
Our sources pin his birth date down as November 26, 1923.
1923.
And the notes mention his early roots were in Gurdaspur, which was in undivided Punjab back then.
Right, a significant place. That grounding, in that rich cultural landscape. You feel like it must have shaped him somehow.
Definitely. And what do the sources say about why he even got into cinema in the first place? Was it always the dream?
Well, the introductory bits in the source material, they paint this picture. It wasn't maybe just about becoming famous. It suggests more of an inner drive, maybe, or perhaps circumstances just kind of pushed him towards the movies.
Interesting.
Yeah, like this young guy, really driven, stepping onto this path that, ended up redefining Indian films. It feels almost like fate, the way it's described, not just a casual choice.
And what a path it turned out to be. So the sources point to his first film, Hummock Hain, from 1946.
1946, yeah. That's a really interesting time to start, right? Post-war, just before independence.
Exactly. So what was that first film like for him? What did it show?
Hummock Hain. Well, it was his first real experience, His cinematic baptism, you could say.
Right.
The notes don't really talk about box office success or anything like that, but they imply it was his crucial first time facing the camera, learning the ropes, starting to cultivate that persona that would later just captivate everyone. So maybe not a blockbuster, but definitely the first essential step.
Laying the groundwork.
Exactly, setting a quiet tone for what was to come.
Okay, so moving on from that debut, there seems to be this really pivotal moment mentioned. The film Bahazi, 1951.
Bazi, yes. That's highlighted as a major turning point, a real breakthrough.
So what was it about Bazi exactly? What made it so important?
Well, connecting the dots here, Bazazi really did lay the groundwork for his signature style, his future success.
How so?
The source specifically mentions Guru Dutt's direction alongside it, so that collaboration, that was key.
Okay, Guru Dutt.
Yeah, that partnership, it wasn't just one role. It seems like it marked a real shift for him, let him kind of shed maybe earlier styles and embrace this more sophisticated urban character. It feels like Bazi was when people really sat up and noticed that unique spark he had, that charm, but with a bit of intensity. It was fresh.
And speaking of that spark, the source gets into his artistic philosophy a bit. There's this section marked with a little O emoji.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
There's a quote from Didi Kashyap. In Hindi, it's yani yen.
Which translates to,
Acting should be like the flow of water, effortless and natural. It's like a little window into his thinking, isn't it?
it really is. That quote, even though it's brief, says so much. It's all about naturalism, authenticity. Like acting shouldn't be showy, it should just flow.
Yeah.
And whether that was just him or maybe something he picked up from mentors like Kashyap, it became his hallmark, didn't it? That relaxed, confident, sort of relatable presence.
Absolutely. And you wonder if that maybe influenced his directing later, too.
That's a great point, yeah. Wanting performances to feel organic, truthful. Makes sense.
Then there's another section marked with a yay emoji. This seems to dig into his romantic side.
The romantic hero. Can't talk about Dev Anand without talking about that.
Right. The source text suggests this was a huge part of his appeal, his on-screen pairings, his charm.
Absolutely central to his stardom. That AM emoji, it clearly signals we're talking about his magnetic appeal as, the lover on screen.
He just had that charisma, didn't he?
He really did. That kind of urban cool, the head tilt, the smile, it made his romantic roles feel incredibly real, aspirational even.
It wasn't just looks, though, was it?
No, not at all. It was vulnerability mixed with cool, a modern feel that just connected. He perfected that charming rogue or the sensitive type.
Sweeping audiences off their feet.
Pretty much. Yeah, that was undeniably key to his massive popularity.
So how did all these pieces, the natural acting, the charm, come together to make him this icon? The sources point to a really busy period.
The 50s and 60s.
Films like Taxi Driver, CID is explicitly listed, and of course Guide in 1965, plus a whole bunch of other titles mentioned in Hindi. He was prolific.
He really was. And this period, you know, the 50s and 60s, that's where his screen presence really locked into place, became that image we all recognize.
Right.
The notes around these films suggest they weren't just hits, they were vehicles for him to explore different sides of that charm.
Like Taxi Driver versus Guide. Very different.
Exactly. The witty taxi driver, the suave detective in CID, then the really complex, introspective guy in Guide. Each role added another layer. He wasn't just playing parts. He was embodying characters that really resonated with the mood of the times in India. Post-independence, modernizing.
And those signature mannerisms. The walk, the way he spoke.
All part of the package. People loved it. He created this persona that felt, I don't know, both aspirational and somehow familiar.
And that appeal, it just lasted, didn't it? There's the section marked with a O emoji.
Yeah, the rope.
It seems to talk about that enduring quality. Maybe cementing him as more than just a romantic lead, but like a symbol of something. Optimism, maybe?
Precisely. That section and the text around it, it really gets at how his appeal went beyond individual films. He became linked with this kind of urban sophistication, a breezy charm that felt both modern and timeless.
Yeah.
Not just a romantic hero, but yeah, maybe embodying hope, progressive ideas, an eternal optimist, reflecting the mood of a young nation.
And the source has these narrator passages too.
Right. Those give this retrospective view, emphasizing that he was more than just an actor. He became a cultural phenomenon.
Wow.
An aspirational figure who could handle complex stuff with this effortless grace. He wasn't just delivering lines.
Yeah.
He was delivering a mood, a feeling, a vision of what a leading man could be.
It's incredible when you think about how long he stayed relevant.
Yeah.
The sources talk about his work right into the 80s. There's a section with a O emoji.
Yeah, the film reel, it highlights his later years.
What does it say about his longevity? Because the film industry can be pretty brutal.
It really can. But the text around that emoji and the mention of the 80s, it speaks to his resilience, his drive to keep innovating.
He did just fade out.
Not at all. Unlike a lot of his peers, maybe, he adapted. He moved into directing, producing.
Your control.
Exactly. Maintaining creative control, telling stories his way. The sources list lots of projects from that time, showing he was still active, still creating, staying relevant somehow.
It wasn't just sticking around. It was an active continuation.
Right. An enduring spirit, always looking for new ways to express himself, still contributing.
A truly legendary career arc. And the source, well, it brings his story to a close, respectfully, noting his passing in 2011.
At 88.
A long life, and one almost entirely devoted to cinema.
It really makes you think, what's the final message? What did he leave behind? This source gives us these two really powerful final statements.
Yeah.
The first is short. In Hindi. Hindi?
Yeah.
No. This is like Hindi become in Hindi.
Which means?
What is living? Living. Living is to be carefree and unburdened. It suggests this philosophy, doesn't it? Beyond fame, just living freely, joyfully.
A legacy of spirit.
I think so. And then there's a longer bit, more philosophical, reflecting on his life, his work, his legacy. It talks about the dreams, the spirit that drove him, the joy he brought through his art, something that lasts, after the credits roll.
Yeah.
It suggests his journey wasn't just about hits or awards, but about creating this living legacy that still inspires people, that boundless optimism, that relentless creativity.
What an amazing journey to unpack. We've gone from his very first steps in Hum McCain
Right back in 46.
through that breakthrough with Buzz E and working with Turudat.
Key moments.
We explored his whole philosophy of natural acting, that iconic romantic charm we saw in films like Guide and CID.
Which really cemented his stardom.
And then acknowledged just how long he kept going, innovating right into his later years with such passion.
His story really is a testament to enduring artistry, isn't it? It makes you wonder what part of his journey resonates most with you listening? And how does seeing someone evolve and dedicate themselves like that influence how you think about while leaving a lasting artistic mark?
That's a great question. He wasn't just a star. He adapted, innovated, and just charmed audiences for decades.
That unique, optimistic charm.
Absolutely. We really hope you'll dive into his films if you haven't already. There's so much there.
A huge body of work.
And maybe reflect on the nuances we've touched on today, his persona, his impact. We've really only scratched the surface in this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us.